Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Elecom Edu. Today, from today, we are going to study on VLSI design. This is a subject which is applicable for deemed university as well as affiliated colleges. And this subject is applicable for UG as well as PG students also. So this is actually the booming field, right? Okay. So before going into this VLSI design, I want to discuss some basics like from the starting of the electronics. So before going into this VLSI design, I want to discuss you about what is electronics, how the electronics get boomed, what are all the devices or components in the earlier stage of the electronics, how the electronics is in a current scenario, and what is this VLSI, and what are all the earlier levels of integration on this VLSI, everything. So the first thing I want to discuss you is what is electronics. Electronics is a study of electrons. So electronics is nothing, it is a study of electrons. So once if you are studying about anything on the electron, we used to call it as a electronics. So what is that electron? What is this electron? For this, you have to brush something from the physics, atom. So atom is a very tiny particle. So this tiny particle atom, which is having three components. So one component is termed as proton, another one component which is termed as neutron, another one component which is termed as electron. So atom, which is comprises of these three components, protons, neutrons as well as electrons. So protons, which are the positively charged particle, electrons, which are the negatively charged particle, and a neutron, which is a neutral. So based on these three components, the atom are getting comprised. So if we are studying about the electrons, that is termed as a electronics, right? So like the same atom. So already I said atom in the sense it is a tiny particle. So if many number of atoms are combined together, we used to call it as a matter. So this matter, which is nothing, we can consider it as a materials. So matters a material. So if we consider the material, again this material is broadly classified into three types. One is a conductor, another one which is a insulator, another one which is a semiconductors. So from this word itself, you can understand what may be this. Conductors. So conductors are an element which can able to conduct. So the conduction may be heat, the conduction may be temperature, otherwise the conduction may be electricity. You can consider anything. So a material which can able to conduct, we used to call it as a conductor. For example, in your home, your mother is cooking. She is keeping some vessels on the stove. So automatically the heat will be absorbed by that. So the way we used to call it as a conductors. So another one, it is a insulator. So it is a non-conduct element. So this element, this material will never conduct. That is a non-conducting element. So non-conducting element, the example, you can take it as a wood, you can take it as a mica. So those things are actually the non-conductors, right? So another one which is termed as a semiconductor. Semi means it is a half. So half conductor. So half will be conducting and half will be non-conducting. So that's why we used to call it as a semiconductor. So what is this non-conduction? Which is a insulator, right? So the material which can able to conduct, which is called as a conductor, the material which can't able to conduct, we used to call it as an insulator. The material can conduct, may not conduct. It may conduct, it may not conduct. We used to call that as a semiconductor. Okay. So in these three, the semiconductor, which is a basic for the electronics. So if you want to fabricate any electron devices, so you need a semiconductor. Without semiconductor, you can't able to design, otherwise if you can't able to fabricate any electron devices, right? Okay, so now we will see what is semiconductor materials. So already I said what is a conducting material. So conducting material, you can consider a aluminium, you can consider a copper. If it is an insulator, you can consider a wood, you can consider the mica and all. If it is a semiconductor, right, in your periodic table, you have only two elements which can able to consider as a semiconductor. One is a silicon and another one which is a germanium. These are known by you earlier, but before going to study any electronic subject, these are all the basics for this, right? And one more thing, you should be strong in this, which will helpful you to attend your GATE examination or any multi-choice question, even your government examinations also, right? So semiconductor in the sense partial conduction, right? Partial conduction is semiconductor. Only these two elements are considered as a semiconductor. One is a silicon, Si, and another one it is a germanium, Ge, right? So this silicon and germanium atomic number also should be known by you, right? You should know the atomic number of silicon as well as germanium. The atomic number of silicon, which is 14, and the atomic number of germanium, which is 32, right? Okay. What is this atomic number? The number of protons and the number of electrons, which is termed as an atomic number. Okay. I hope you already know the atomic, the structure of atom. So how will be the structure of atom? It is having a nucleus, right? It is having the nucleus. Nucleus is nothing. It is a combination of proton and neutron. The electron will be revolving around the nucleus. So the electrons will be revolving around the nucleus. So already I said proton, which is a positively charged particle, the electrons, which is a negatively charged particle, the neutron, which is a null. So nucleus, which is a combination of proton and electron, but the atom is always a neutral, okay? Means that proton, which is equals to electron. If, for example, if the number of protons is 14, means that the number of electrons is also 14, right? So that's why atom is always neutral, right? So this 14 represents the number of proton. 14 represents the number of electron. So what is the atomic number of silicon? It is 14. So means that proton, which is 14, as well as electron also, which is 14. So the germanium, again, proton is positively charged particle, that is 32, and the electron, it is a negatively charged particle, that is also 32, right? Okay. So means that protons are placed inside the nucleus, Electrons are revolving around the nucleus. Okay. So here I want to brush up you these things too, right? So the outermost the electron which is revolving around the orbit I said. So the orbit are termed as K shell, L shell, M shell as well as N shell. Okay.